So welcome, Vicki Hudson, to the Art of Healing group. Thank you for coming today. I decided to do these chats with people because I wanted to create more connection with others. I wanted to, when I went on my journey of healing, I realized that I wasn't feeling my emotions enough. And so I wanted to try and help as many people as possible to feel their emotions so they don't have to experience any of the nonsense that I went through, hopefully. And so with that, I decided to interview people, to have a chat with them, see how they are, and just to be free format, really, to talk about whatever it is that comes up for you. Talk about your business. So if you want to introduce yourself, tell us what you do for a living, and we can go for there.
Okay, no problem. Well, I've been self-employed now for 7 years. Started mainly doing massage and reflexology. I trained originally in 2001, 2003. I did a full-time college course for 2 years, and then got on a plane and went to Tenerife. Basically, that's how it worked for me. And yeah, I just found a passion really in what I did about helping people. Typically that thing of, when I was a child, I wanted to be a nurse, and then decided I realised that they worked way too hard, and I really don't like blood. So it was actually what I do is actually much nicer, I think.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and just to continue to learn all different things, ever since, really. I love working with people through their conception journey, fertility issues, pregnancy and postnatally. Last week I was away. I'm doing another level of manual lymphatic drainage, because it fits in all sorts of ways, but it fits in obviously with the postnatal, because I'm also doing a scar work course as well. So, for those ladies that end up with cesarean sections and stuff like that, it will fit in well there. But I have a full range of different people who come to me within my clinic. I do a lot of massage as well still, but as time goes on, I guess that's what I'm moving away from more than anything, because I remember when I was at college, my tutor said at the time, massage therapists don't have very long work life because of the damage it does to their bodies, really.
Yeah.
So I look at it and think I'm extremely fortunate that 20 years later, I'm still massaging people.
Mm.
But I do have those days when I wake up and my hands are swollen and very, very sore and stuff like that. So, yeah, so as my business is progressing, I'm seeing it change. And I think that's the biggest change for me, really, is the fact that I'm finally understanding the fact that I'm planning where I'm going. Grand old age of 58, I finally decided that I actually need to put a plan in place, and actually work towards something that I, that fills me with joy. And I'm really fortunate and very blessed that I do something that fills me with joy every day. So
Yeah. Brilliant. And so what brought you into this field of work? What were you doing before all of this? And
previous life, gosh, lots of jobs that I never stuck at, because it really, as I say, now I realise, because they didn't fill me with a passion. Principally, before I came into this, I worked for Royal Mail, and I put my hands up and said I've never delivered a letter in my life, but started off working for them in their processing unit, and then did customer service and all sorts of things through personnel, HR, that type of thing, admin type roles. And then did an in-house management leadership course with them, and went and became a delivery office manager.
Okay.
And worked out there for 3 years with 115 postmen and women at 5 o'clock in the morning. So that's really interesting.
Not for me. Oh
No,
dear.
no. Yeah, it was. But yeah, it was an experience, and probably that was one of my happiest times because of the connection with people. They were just, some of them were buggers, but they were lovely people, all of them characters.
Mm.
And so yeah, that was really my previous life.
So do you see any of them as your clients now?
I did have a couple, yes, yeah. Most of them have moved on, different areas and stuff now. But I think the thing is, because as I say, when I finished my training for this, I went away, and obviously coming back, you do tend to. I was away for about 8-9 years, so you do tend to lose contact with a number of people. But I guess that's the joys of Facebook, isn't it? Is I'm back in touch with some of them that
Mm.
you
You
know.
haven't moved, you're not in a different area, so you're still in.
No. Strangely, I guess that's part of why I came back, because at the time one of my sisters was poorly, and my mum's obviously getting older now. So I came back to. I had grand plans of going somewhere else, but it just never worked out like that, really.
Mm.
So yeah.
So how long were you away for?
As I say, about 8 or 9 years. So
A long time.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you were working out there as a therapist?
Yes. I was again very fortunate. I moved out there in the May and got a job in a timeshare, 5-star timeshare complex in the October. So I was really lucky. Had that holiday, that extended holiday thing, and then worked with them right through until I left, basically. So yeah, I was very, very lucky. But what it also did for me was make me realise that I didn't want to work in a salon, because boy, do they work you hard. Yeah. But it was
And
fun.
not very much money either as well.
No, that's right. I mean, it was lovely. I mean, working out there and working officially, I was really lucky because I was paid relatively well, but we got 7 weeks holiday, so that was quite nice. And I always say the thing about working in a spa type thing is I learned how to fold towels spot on. And I still do it now. Wherever I go, I have to refold all the towels.
Brilliant.
So yeah.
So what kind of what brought you into the world of therapy? Well, what made you decide?
I guess it was something that I had to, up until probably my late 20s, I really didn't even have any idea about it. But I had my children quite young, and I'd always really suffered with PMS, or whatever they call it these days, and I was, I could go from naught to screaming banshee in 5 seconds flat, and it was. I think about it now, and I just think, my God, I don't know how any of them coped, let alone how I coped, and I decided that I needed to go to. I'd find something relaxing for me, something that may help me. And so I joined a local yoga group, and my yoga teacher, who I still say to this day, she was the lady that gave me my neck back, you sort of spend your life like this, don't you? And after 6 months of yoga, I'm sort of, oh my God, look at this. I could wear dangly earrings after all. And she was an amazing teacher. And I've probably done yoga pretty much in spits and spats ever since, really. But she was a massage therapist as well. She was, I discovered that afterwards. So I started to go to her to have massage. And then I was really fortunate that somebody that I'd met, I can't even remember who and where it was, but somebody I'd met messaged me and said that South Downs College, which was our local college, were doing a new further education course in this thing called complementary therapies. And as I say, it was a 2-year course which involved massage, reflexology, stress management, diet and nutrition, Indian head massage, aromatherapy. It covered pretty much everything at that time that you would consider as a complementary therapy. And yeah, I decided that I would apply to go on it, much to my then husband's disgust, because obviously I had a really good paying job in Royal Mail. And so the husband didn't survive the course.
But you did.
I did, yes. And so hence why I ended up getting on a plane and going to Tenerife, really, because I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. And in reality, as I know now, I was running away from all of that pile of poo that I'd left, behind. So yeah, so that's how I started. And then, as I say, when I went into the salon, obviously most of it was just massaging people, 11 hours a day.
11 hours a day.
And holiday makers, that was it. And
You must have been exhausted. How did they manage to find 11
yeah,
clients a day? Never mind that. I mean, that's a huge amount of clients.
yes, massive amount of clients. Yeah,
They were
yeah.
charging not very much, presumably, then, or?
Oh, I know, they were charging they were charging an astronomical amount of money.
Oh, really?
Well, when I went to Tenerife, the exchange rate was 1.5, I think, literally pretty much 1.4, 1.5, I think. And they were charging €65. So that was pretty much 45, £50, I guess, which was a lot of money, lot of money. I mean, considering I'm not even charging that now in pounds, I guess.
Wow.
So
I guess it depends where you are, because I charge 65 for a treatment, so
yeah,
it's all very much depends on location, doesn't it?
yeah. But yeah, I mean, as I say, they had a captive audience. It was a timeshare resort, so they were all brought. They'd all brought into the complex. It was beautiful. It was very, very, as I say, it was, it was five star. So, yeah, they had everything there. So yeah, and they charged. That's how much they charged. So yeah.
So you had a great time.
I did. Yeah,
And
as you say, tired. It was very tiring, but met a few narcissists along the way. But hey ho, that's life. We're all running from something. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So what would you say has been the hardest thing that you've had to cope with?
Death, definitely, 100%. Yeah, of those close to you. Yeah, obviously of those close to you. But it's not about, what I've found is it's not about how physically or relationship, how with what the blood ties are. It's just about how close that person is to you, isn't it?
Mm.
You know, I actually, the year I went to Tenerife, 2003, my dad died in the December, so that was, you know, parents die, I guess. It was difficult. He was an alcoholic, so there you go. He wasn't that old, so you know, it was about life's choices, isn't it?
Yeah.
But again, what was interesting about that was the fact that when you got on a plane and went back to Tenerife, you didn't have to think about it.
Yeah.
So you dealt with it in a completely different way. And I think you also, living somewhere like that as well, you get used to a very transient way of life. People come, people go. So you don't really ever get really attached to anybody that closely.
Right.
So it was an interesting time. And then all was well in my world until 2019, and my sister died of cancer, and that broke me.
Right.
Definitely, definitely broke me.
Was that a very strong bond for
Yes,
you?
yeah, yeah. And again, interesting, isn't it? How you compare things. You know, she was always the one. You know, the one that we kept a strong relationship through everything. And she was like the middle. She was for a while the middle child, but I was the youngest of four. So I had two older sisters and an older brother. So what I hadn't really focused on, of course, because you don't, is that the bond she had with my elder sister was very similar to the bond I had with her.
Right.
So she was just, I think she was like the mother of all of us, if you like. She was the one that we all went to. So yeah, it was a real difficult time. And then obviously 2 years later, that older sister died as well. So now I've almost got a comparison, which is weird. It's an awful thing to compare, but how I grieved for one wasn't the same as how I grieved for the other.
Mm.
And I've done a lot of soul searching, and almost like that element of grief of, well, I felt like not grief, about guilt, you know, about, well, I felt like that about this, why didn't I feel the same?
Mm-hmm.
You know, am I a bad person? Didn't I not love her the same? You know, it was
Do you
really,
think there's a case for being said that perhaps you'd also learnt about grief and how to process it better?
absolutely. Do you know what? I think you're spot on there. I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think every time we lose somebody, it is completely different.
Mm.
And I don't, I guess it's like any experience in life, isn't it? Once you've experienced once, it's not such a shock
No.
to the body
Mm.
or the mind or whatever. You know, that first meal, that first curry you ever have, you can, wow, that was amazing, that was incredible. You know, compared with if you had it every night, by the end of the fortnight, you'd be going, oh my God, you know. So it is just really different, very
Mm.
different. I think the journey is something that is very individual and yeah, different every time for everybody, I think.
Absolutely. I certainly found that myself with my own experience of
Mm,
loss, that losing my father was a
yeah,
very dramatic impact on my life and very physical effect on my body. But with my mother, I had sort of learnt the skills and an understanding of grief much more. Excuse me. And So I was able to sort of allow myself to feel the pain, whereas before I wanted to always block it away and not.
Yeah,
I'm okay and everything's great. And so I think that that understanding, I think, is also why each death is different, but also, yeah, as you say, the relationship is different, and how much impact they have on your day to day life. If you're, you know, and I don't mean to undermine anything at all, but it's when you lose an animal, when you lose a pet, that impact is really immediate. So you can almost have a much more shocking impact from losing a dog than from losing a human that you don't see every day,
yeah,
because your world has changed immediately as with their loss. And it may be for some people easier to get over. It'd be a shorter period of time to lose a dog than others.
yeah. Hmm.
So excuse me. Um, yeah, I think grief is definitely a learning curve, isn't it? To
Mm,
like any emotions, we have to
yes,
understand
yes,
them and to feel how to feel them and how to feel in anything.
yeah. But I think you're right. I think you have to be open because it no matter, again, it's really difficult, isn't it? To Because there's you can't judge how long it's going to take you either.
No,
But the thing I would always say, I think, to anybody about this is you have to let it happen, because it's not somewhere that you stay forever.
no,
The process is meant to allow you to move from one stage to another. As they say, don't they, there's 5 stages or 7 stages, and it doesn't matter which stage you go through in that. And what I've also found is it's we go through a type of grieving for virtually every situation in our lives as well. I think now I can look back and I think I went through a period of grief when my marriage ended, although I didn't it was me that instigated it. But the impact of that, I think there was still a process of grief to go through, you know, whatever they call it, that acceptance, that anger, that bargaining, that, whatever it is. And as you say, I think we go through that with most things in our lives, don't we? Um, I think we were talking the other day a messaging the other day. I think we were talking about getting rid of people that no longer serve us in our lives, or don't. Maybe serve is the wrong word for some people, but those people that actually you recognize aren't part of your tribe, and you need to, but you still go through that period of grief with that person, because no matter how maybe they didn't fit in your life and they made you feel bad, there were good elements in there as well. So I think, as you say, it's recognizing that we go through patterns, I guess.
yeah. And
In
yeah,
life.
knowing that you can shift yourself
Yeah,
out is really sort of a learning curve, isn't it, to get to that understanding that you can do.
yeah, yeah. I mean, with
Okay. And so, with all of that, I just wondered how you feel in this particular moment. We're talking about something that is still naturally going to upset you as well. But how are you in this moment today?
yeah, okay. I think it always rocks me a little, I guess. Um, and I think that's a sense of isolation. I think I recognize it now as a sense of having once been one of 4 children. I am now one of 2, and that's that. I mean, my brother remarried a couple of weeks ago, and that was a really, really difficult day.
Yeah.
Really difficult. And what was lovely was it was one of my it was one of my nephews. They came in the evening, and he actually sort of gave me a hug and said hello. And he was the one that said to me, "It's been a tough day," you know. I went, "Yeah, it has," because obviously his mum wasn't there either, you know. And she is. I think I watched something on a Jay Shetty thing the other day, and he said, "Think about that person. Who is that person that you would ring to tell them anything?" He said, "When you leave here tonight, ring them." And I thought, I can't do that.
Mm.
She's not here anymore, you know? And that still gets me. That still makes me want to, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
Interestingly, I went to a wedding the other day too, and it was very similar, but not for me, but for my partner whose wife had died, and his it was her family's wedding, so it was her niece's wedding, but it was so Andrew's daughter's cousin,
right.
and so but we were invited too, and just the impact of all of them knowing that this person wasn't there, and also
Yeah.
her mother had died, so her father was there without one of his daughters and without his wife, and so it was
Yeah.
a really really tough time for him. Although weddings are beautiful wonderful occasions and they fill you full of hope, they're also sad because you also remember the people that you would love to have been in that room still.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. And I think it's recognizing that, isn't it? And I think that's part of the healing journey, is to recognize that.
Mm,
And there's nothing to say that you can't come away from that and say, you know, you were there with me. You were with, they were both there that day. You know, I
mm,
know they were.
yeah,
You know, and you sort of just think, yeah, they were there. They were, you know, they enjoyed it too.
yeah,
Um, but that's lovely that you were included in that day too,
absolutely, yeah. I
isn't
was
it?
very
Yeah,
very honored to be
yeah,
able to be there because I do um feel such joy when I go to particularly somebody else's wedding. It's lovely, and I just but it was nice to be able to be there to be supportive of those that were also feeling joy, but also aware of that
yeah,
sadness.
yeah,
So
yeah,
um, yeah, I think uh, yeah, it was always kind of mixed blessings, aren't there?
yeah.
And that's
Mm.
okay. It's okay to have both of those emotions held side by side at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to carry both of those, yeah. So so now you were talking about at the beginning about having plans, deciding how your future is going to be shaped. So what's is there any sort of grand, big plan for the future, or do you just see yourself in of taking steps towards something different?
Um,
Something.
no, I think like most of us, I think we're all looking at different ways of working, aren't we? And I think mine include sort of things of putting packages together. I think that's one thing I've always resisted doing, you know. Um, but I have, over the years, I think I've just acquired so many skills that I think it gets confusing for people, doesn't it? When you go,
Mm,
well, I can do this and I can do this and I can also do that, but I can do that. And so, you know, it's about fitting things in together, I guess. Like I do a lot of post-surgical work, as I say, and that can be looking at that. That's why I did the scar work course, was because obviously I use the MLD with that to reduce the swelling and help get everything moving and all that. But it made perfect sense to me to be able to do scar work as well, because obviously that's a massive element of when you've been for, you know, for an operation, whether it's elected surgery, you've decided to go and have a tummy tuck, or whether it's because, you know, your baby was in distress and they needed to get it out, you know. So and obviously everything in between, you know, appendicitis or, you know, gallbladder, whatever it may be, you know. And so that sort of area. Plus, I do fertility work as well, with couples, mainly ladies. Obviously, it seems to be mainly ladies that can get their head around complementary therapies. But yeah, I see people who are on a difficult fertility journey, and I'm contemplating looking at, obviously, that fertility area, that pregnancy and that postnatal thing, about how you can put all that together with the skills that I've got, you know. So
I was wondering, with all of the skills that you've got, you haven't decided to go into sort of oncology, working with cancer patients.
I
That need-
did 3 years working with Macmillan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did 3 years working with Macmillan, um, and decided not to go back after lockdown, um, because basically through my own choice I have not been vaccinated. That's another
Right.
whole big story.
Okay.
So chose then that, you know, that it wasn't somewhere that I wanted to go back to,
Yeah.
at this time. You know,
Yeah.
who knows in the future.
Okay.
So, but obviously I still have those skills, if you like.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, with the breast reconstruction, that type of thing, I think there's probably a lot of work that, the
Well,
lymph
the lymphatic drainage, definitely. You
yeah,
know, for
definitely, yeah.
um,
Yeah,
people post having lymphedema, etc., is hugely
yeah.
important to have MLD. So
Yes, yeah, definitely.
yeah, I
So
guess, and we always kind of we end up sort of working towards the areas that we feel bring us the most joy and and pleasure, and maybe still, for me, I certainly went on a journey after my father died of cancer of working with cancer patients, and I worked with cancer patients for about 8 years, and I then had come to a point where actually it was naturally I had sort of done my time, and it was enough for me because I was doing it on a voluntary basis. Um,
yes, yeah,
that I think there comes a point when you say, right, I've actually paid my dues for whatever it was that you needed to, for me, it was definitely about being able to give back after having gone through that experience. And so I think I'd got to a point where I was like, yeah, I've done what I needed to do. I come
yeah,
to that understanding. So,
yeah, definitely. I think you're right there. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why also I think at the moment I'm looking at, um, sort of trying. This is where I'm a bit blurry, because I'm looking at, those women of my age as well, and I don't necessarily think this is a physical therapy thing that I'm heading into with the women of my age, but, it's more of a fact of, menopause is a massive thing now, isn't it? The marketing people are all over it like a rash.
mm,
But what happens to those women like me who are post-menopause? I didn't have a horrendous menopause. I
right.
had, as I say, the 30 years beforehand were pretty crap, but
I think you
the
came
actual,
through.
yeah, the menopause was actually okay. I think my body thought, thank God that's over, but it still left me in that situation of, where am I going now? What am I doing now? You know, because we do become completely invisible, I think, to everybody, don't we? Because we allow ourselves to, because we've become parents, or we've become other people's partners, and we just do everything for everybody else. And I think coming out, I think I think there's a thing going around at the moment about the third age, of where we are. What are you going to do with that? I don't want to be I've got 10 years until I retire officially, and I just think that doesn't mean I need to be on a downward spiral, or a downward slide to, I don't know, knitting or sitting on the sofa watching nothing on telly and hoovering every day because I've got nothing else to do. Or, I just don't see that we have to go down that way.
No.
I mean, I am probably fitter now than I've ever been in my life,
Brilliant.
because I took the decision that actually, as I say, I mean, I lost both my sisters. One of them was 59, so that's, and the other one was 62. So, I'm very close in that, in that age group. I'm fortunate that parents, grandparents, etc., we have a history of, that 80 plus.
Right.
I remember telling my children when they were small, I'm going to torment you well into being into my hundreds, so you're not getting rid of me. But if I want that to be a reality, I've got to do something about it, because it isn't going to happen on its own. And that's suddenly struck me, that I've got to do something about it.
Mm.
So
And so what changes do you make? And is it just on a physical level or
no, I think it's everything. I mean, I've done, lockdown was great in as much as I had time and I did a lot of research and stuff, and I've cleared virtually every chemical cleaner out of my house. I make a lot of my own stuff now. Going back to the old days, bicarbonate of soda,
yeah,
citric acid, white vinegar, all of those things. That I clean my toilet, I do my washing, all of those types of things. I make up sprays that I can wipe the sides down, and my own cosmetic stuff, to use, with deodorants and face creams and, those types of things. So, yeah, and plus obviously diet wise, I'm still having a struggle with the whole sugar craving thing, but it's getting better. But, that's a massive thing, because that's the whole gut house candida, overgrowth that most of us have, because people of my age were, brought up in the 70s, where, fat was fat was demonized, and so they put sugar in everything. So, we're just so, every processed food you come across is laden with sugar.
yeah.
So it's so difficult to get that out of your diet, but it causes so much inflammation within the body.
Mm.
So it's getting that out. And as I say, exercise wise, really just about beginning to love it. I don't think I'm ever going to love running. I'm dreadful, but I still do.
But you try,
I
exactly. You
still
just
do
try,
it. I
and that's
still
all
do
that
it.
matters.
Yeah. So yeah, and of course my love of yoga still comes in there as well.
Brilliant.
I still do that 2 or 3 days a week, just half an hour here or whatever. So yeah, but I think it has to be. It's not a diet. There's no such thing, is there? Diets don't work, as they say. You have to have the commitment to have a life change, a lifestyle change, or
Yeah,
whatever it is. So
absolutely. Brilliant. Well,
yeah,
thank you very much for coming along today to have a chat.
no problem.
Been very interesting, and I've really enjoyed it. And at some stage, hopefully, we can do a meditation together as well.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
so thank you, and I look forward to chatting to you soon.
Lovely. Thanks very much for your time. Thanks,
Thank
Amanda.
you.